Good morning, everybody. Actually, wait a minute. Oh, it's 2 o'clock. Time flies when you're not having fun. Holy mackerel. Well, details to follow. So, there has been a significant change in plans. Um, I am no longer, at least at this time, going to be building a Zeroli AT6 because I have purchased a CARF T6. Yeah. Normally, it's not the type of airplane that I would be purchasing just because these are very, very expensive. But um, when when everything lines up and things work out, hey, for the price I got this airplane, I could not say no. So what we have, and we'll get back to the center section in a little bit here. We have, as I stated, the CARF A T6, all done in the yellow scheme, and yes, this is a very big airplane. Its actually fuselage length is 3 inches shorter than my Hostetler Chipmunk, but significantly larger wingspan. The wingspan on this one, I believe, is 126 inches. So, big airplane. I had the wing all set up out here earlier, and it went from about the rudder to my P40 over to my chair. But once again, we'll get into that in a minute. So, the reason I ended up with this airplane is because I got a good deal. My good buddy Ted has been flying this for, I believe, about 4 years with a Moki 250. It's been a great airplane, but it still is an AT6. And for those that have flown T6s know exactly what I'm talking about. They have some gremlins, and this airplane, even though is a beautiful flying airplane, it can bite, and when it bites hard. So a couple weeks ago, up at Cards Field, he put on a perfect flight. And on the next flight, on takeoff, we're not exactly sure what happened. It seems like it came off the ground a little sooner than expected. And when you have a big Moki in the front of one of these things with a very large prop, that's a lot of torque. So that's where a T6 shows its ugly face. So it rolled hard to the left, which in most cases would have ended up in a complete tip stall followed by a cartwheel and resulting in a completely destroyed airplane. But he reacted quick, leveled it back out, but didn't have the altitude to get it, safely back up into the air. So it ended up making a perfectly flat, very high-speed landing in our bean field off the north side of our runway. And when it did, it landed and kind of spun around in the bean field. And when it did, that's what caused a lot of the damage to the airplane. So yes, I got a good deal on this airplane because it is broken. The caliber of flyers that typically buy these airplanes, trying to word this delicately so I don't offend anybody, are the type that want this quality and everything ready to go. Typically, your modelers are not going to be getting planes like this because modelers build, we build, we paint, we fix, repaint, and blah, 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 blah. So he knew that this plane was no longer going to be very desirable to sell for, what they would typically go for, because whoever bought it's going to have to make some repairs. So we talked, and I'm his favorite nephew that he wished he didn't have. So he offered me a deal that I could not refuse. I did not purchase the engine. I mean, come on, you guys know me. I'm not a fan of the round engines, and there's a lot of reasons for that. One is mainly the price tag. That's a lot of money. And in a T6, personally, and now here I go, I'm going to offend somebody. I'm sorry. I'm not, but I'm going to say I am just to maintain status as a good guy. This plane should not have a radial engine. It's not the right sound. Okay, now, before everybody starts, sending me hate mail, who has seen a full-scale T6 fly? Raise your hands. Hello. Who has flown a full-scale T6? Raise your hands. Hello. What does a full-scale T6 sound like when it's in the air? You cannot hear the round engine in the front of that airplane. All you hear is that prop barking. That thing just rips. Especially if there's a full-scale T6 doing any kind of maneuvers. You don't hear the engine, you hear the prop. And what does that sound like? That sounds a lot like one of these here. So this is going to, it's sounding like, and I'm leaning more toward a DLE 130, which will actually have the appropriate sound, in my opinion. There's a place for round engines, it's just not here. I don't think so. Plus, for me, there's nothing better than a sound of a Quadra 52 with a Bennett muffler on it. So yeah, I like that. So yeah, that's that. So as far as the repairs that need to be made, when it landed in the bean field and it landed and then kind of spun around, when it spun around, the beans grabbed a hold of all the control surfaces and gave them a heck of a yank. So the aileron servos blew out, one elevator servo blew out, and the rudder, really, the most of the actual damage is on the rudder. As you can see, it got kind of peeled open. So I'm going to remove the bottom portion of the rudder, basically put a cap on the end of it, and then sand it and blend it to shape, and we'll be good to go. The tail wheel, this portion of the tail wheel was broken, but I got a hold of Daryl at Sierra, and this is Daryl's gear, but this is a Robart piece that he was getting from Robart. Of course, we all know Robart's gone, but he is now making this piece. So I already ordered one, got it, so that's good to go. Other than that, there's really nothing wrong with the fuselage. I'm going to replace all the servos on the main flight controls except for the rudder. The rudder servo's fine, the flap servos are fine, but I'm going to put some really nice Pro Modelers in the elevators and the ailerons. And yeah, those are untouched. The wings are basically untouched. They're in really good shape. So yeah, that's really the only repair I have to do on the fuselage. So let's move on to the wing section here. So the gear, thankfully, were not harmed. The axles on the gear struts themselves were bent. Ted's a machinist by trade, so he made some new axles for it. So those are good to go. Thank goodness, because those are expensive. And these have been converted to air. Thank goodness. So when it did touch down, one of the gears pulled loose and kind of went back, and when it did, a portion of the gear punctured the top surface here. Now the opposite side of here is inside the wheel well, so all I'm going to have to really do is just kind of push this back into place and make a repair from the inside. And up here it's going to be not very noticeable, so I don't think as long as I can make the repair the way I'm envisioning it, I really shouldn't have to do anything out here. I mean, it's going to show, you're going to see the little, the cracks and stuff like that, but I'm really not that concerned about it. That's not a deal breaker for me. I need to put this thing away. I really, really don't want to try to fly it this year just because I'm going to have to buy an engine. I got some other stuff I got to purchase, and I spent enough money on the airframe, I just need to put it aside for now. But there's one thing I wanted to do and get it out of the way because it was a pain in the ass. Holy mackerel. Ted, you are my hero for even being able to put this thing together. And what I'm referring to is the flaps. Holy mackerel. So yeah, Ted's kind of old school. God bless him. The ailerons and flaps are plugged into matchboxes, so each one only goes to one channel in the receiver. I'm going to get rid of the matchbox for the ailerons. I like to separate all my controls on a separate channel. I'll keep the flaps in the matchbox because it's not going to hurt anything. It's already set up, and that allows me to very easily fine-tune the two flaps because they are As you can see here, they are a split system, so there is one on each side. Now that I've moved it. So what I'll do is I'm going to put you down briefly, and I'm going to show you how these flaps work. Hang on. Hang on. I'm working on it. And yes, this has high-tech digitals in it, so they are noisy, 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 but they're totally fine. Let me grab a seat here. Okay, so there's 2 flap servos, one operates each side. So when they're down, we'll see if we can figure out this mechanism here. There's a bell crank right there that goes up to the servo, and it comes out to this rod that moves through the wing this way. And as it moves, it's also rotating a little bit because of these clevises that mount on to a little post here and go up to these, they're like a clamp that goes around this carbon fiber rod, and those clamps are glued into place. And they're very strategic to make sure that they work. I mean, that is just absolutely beautiful. However, because it spun around, and when he took off, he had flaps. When it spun around, of course, the beans grabbed this and pulled them. It broke the glue joints on these clamps and bent these little push rods, and oh my God, to get all those back into place was a real chore. And when you plug the outboard wing panels on the very end, there's something on my finger. Sorry. When you plug the outboard wing panel in, there's a clevis you hook onto here, and it's basically this same setup that runs into the outboard panel. And some of those got broke loose too. So I had to I got this portion done and set here on my bench, and then I took the center section out there and put the outboard panels on and got them set up. But you can see how that operates. That is just, it is a pain in the ass, but it is so cool on how it works. That I've never seen it done that way before. That is just fantastic. So that's that. And because it's all going through focus. Okay. And because these are set up through this matchbox, this is most likely going to be flown on FreeSky. Right now I have everything plugged into a Futaba system at the moment. But because it's going through the matchbox, all I have to do is plug that into my whatever receiver I decide to use, whatever radio I decide to use, and just set my 2 endpoints, and I'm good to go. So that's cool. This does have lights. It's got everything. It's fully decked out. So I'm not sure. Actually, we'll flip it over here. Let me see if I can do this one-handed. Turn off old reliable here. Even though I'm mainly a FreeSky dude now, I still love my Futaba. This is not going anywhere. Any plane that I'm currently flying in this system is staying. The same with my Airtronics equipment. Just going forward, most likely everything I use will be going to the FreeSky. Alright, I'm going to put you down again. Once again, I apologize. It's very rude of me. But trying to do this without breaking anything can be a little bit of a chore. Okay. Now we gotta allow the camera to get happy again. So we can see, yeah, right there is where I need to make the repair from the inside. To get the gear, the rake of the gear correct, Ted put in some blocks on top of the gear rails. Of course, those pulled out. But that's going to be as simple as epoxying them back in and getting some clamps in there to tighten everything back up. And some little cosmetic stuff here. Once again, probably nothing I'm going to need to paint. I'm just going to have to get things back into place and we'll be good to go. And the same on the other side. It just pulled the block, the spacer out. Everything else appears to be in good shape. And for such a high-tech, advanced, expensive airplane, it still uses the twin dowels for the to hold the front of the wing in. That just amuses me. I mean, I like it, but that's just silly. I can't believe on something like this you would see that still to this day on a plane like this. Kind of makes me like it even more. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to show you this project and also give an explanation on why you will not be seeing a build video on a Zeroli T6 this winter. But then again, you never know. I may decide to build one anyway. We'll see. Because now because I need something to do in the wintertime or I'll go crazy. So I've been working on the Cap 21. I'll do another video on that at another time. As you can see up there, the wings are skinned. They're not glued together, but they're joined just to get them up on the rack. Ailerons are cut out. Tail surfaces are all skinned. But once again, I had to put it away, so I still have something to do this winter. I don't want to get everything done now. But I'm also debating on stripping down my Cardin 35% extra and recovering it. So I'm thinking of little things to do this winter. But you never know. I may start building on the Zeroli T6 anyway, because as I've already mentioned, I already have gear. We have a wing tube, canopy, cowl. So I may start working on that. We'll see. And I might actually cut the parts myself, just to save that extra money. But yeah, we'll see. So yeah, I'm very excited about this. Once again, this is not the typical type of airplane you would ever see me with, because it's very, very expensive. I mean, to get one of these completely ready to fly, let's say with the Moki 250, which is the most popular choice, you're looking at over $10,000. So to me, that's too much money for a model airplane. It is. Even if I had the money, which I mean I do, even if I had the disposable money, I probably still wouldn't go that route, just because it's still a model airplane that relies on a signal going from that to that. And there's just so many things that could go wrong. I mean, I've been doing this, for over 30 years. Too much money. So I may or may not bring you back down the road, down the line a little bit when I get some more work done on it. Because once again, all I really have to do is make some cosmetic repairs, put the gear back in, swap out some servos, get a new engine for it, and it's basically done. One thing I still have to figure out is it's got a sliding canopy. Both front and back do slide. And of course we have switches in the front and ignition switch in the back. Whole bunch of switches. Huh. Got to figure out what those even go to. But there's nothing that holds them closed. So I have to figure out something there. Overall, the quality of the airplane, I mean, the CARF models are very good quality, of course, all composite. The only gripe I have is because it does have the raised rivets, you can see the paint wears off those rivets pretty quickly, just from transport, cleaning. So that's kind of a bummer. And I mean, that's really good paint. I really don't want to respray the entire airplane, and I'm not going to. But I may find some paint that's very close and just put it on the tip of a brush and just kind of touch up the rivets. And little things here and there that I'm just overall not impressed with, but that's how these composite airplanes are put together. Like, let's look at the trailing edge of the rudder, for instance. As you can see, it's not painted right here. All of this stuff is not painted. So, yeah, I may have to figure something out there, get some paint, kind of touch that up. The ailerons are the same way. The trailing edge of the ailerons have no paint on them. It's like, really? That much money? And you're not going to paint the trailing edge of the control surfaces? Come on now. I'm just I'm just being picky and choosy, which I really can't be, because if I mentioned what I paid for this airplane, oh, you guys would be so mad. But you guys know me. It has to be a good deal or I won't buy it. So anyway, that's where we're at. And I know most are saying the flying season's almost over. I extremely disagree. I'm probably not going to get the cap back down until probably October. And I might fiddle fart with this thing a little bit. We'll see. But we're still flying season, and I'm going to keep flying. So until the next time, later.